Hi, dear listeners. Welcome to this new episode of my podcast, A Digital Tomorrow. Today, I'm joined by Binur Zhalenov, CEO and member of the Board of Directors of the Payment and Financial Technologies Development Center at the National Bank of Kazakhstan. Welcome, Binur.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this wonderful podcast, and I hope we will have an interesting discussion with you today.
The pleasure is mine, and I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting discussion. And um, I wanted to start maybe from the beginning, talking a bit about yourself. And as I said, you are currently working as CEO at the Payment and FinTech Development Center at the National Bank of Kazakhstan. You used to work as well as technology advisor to the governor of the National Bank of Kazakhstan. So you've been involved in central banking, FinTech. I wanted to ask you, before moving forward, a personal question in the sense that what made you decide to enter the FinTech world? And what potential do you see in banking adopting technology, not just in your country, but globally?
Right. That's a perfect question. So let me answer that this way. So I believe, well, financial transaction is at the very heart of any human interaction in this world in the modern economy. Meanwhile, along with healthcare and education, financial industry is one of the most resistant to innovation because of the cost of the error of mistake is quite high. So government protect consumers and citizens from risks using stringent regulation, etc., etc., etc. So my belief is that improving innovation capacity in the regulator can improve innovation in financial industry and have this huge multiplicative effect to innovation in the whole world. So this belief helped me to find my mission to help regulators and especially National Bank of Kazakhstan to build these innovative frameworks to help build innovation for the market players. And yeah, so that what the main criteria that made me to make decision to join National Bank team.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing. And before moving forward to the CBDC area, which will be very important in our podcast, I want to talk a bit about fintech in general in Kazakhstan and Central Asia, because I know that when you worked as a technology advisor to the governor of the National Bank of Kazakhstan, you, if I'm not mistaken, developed this strategic roadmap of fintech innovation in the Republic of Kazakhstan 2020-2025. So can you please summarize what were the main contents or findings of this strategic roadmap?
Sure, yeah. So I was the member of author committee who developed two strategic documents. Actually, first is strategic roadmap for fintech and innovation, and second is strategic roadmap for national payment system development. So those documents are very interconnected and share the same sort of framework. So the idea was to build a strategy that reflects the fundamental shifts in the industry, which is wide development and adoption of platform business model and development of digital ecosystems in the financial market of Kazakhstan. We also wanted to take into consideration industry convergence that is happening between finance, retail, and telecom and other industries, and also emerging technologies such as DeFi, blockchain, and DLT. And the idea was to develop such a strategy. So we structured that in three main directions of work. First is digital financial infrastructure, meaning that we want to build inclusive infrastructure that helps, that enable actually financial institutions to build new products faster and in a cheaper mode, and enable new innovative capacity for them. Second was digital regulation, meaning that we want to support wide adoption of RegTech and SubTech technologies, as well as digital supervision, so that we can shift from matrix-oriented reporting to data-centric reporting. And the final and probably the most important is building the collaborative environment where the regulators, industry players, other stakeholders can join together so that innovation, can accelerate in our country. That was sort of the key directions of work. Now we are in the middle of actual execution of that strategy, and we already having the results of that. For example, we just launched instant payment systems. Already, we also implemented the first phase of national card switch. We engaged very deep into CBDC research, and just within a week or so, we published our open banking framework in Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. I was actually going to ask you as well about this open banking initiative. And you just told me that you just published this framework. Could you please summarize the most important elements of this open banking framework?
Sure. The core idea for us is to give consumers the full power over their data and payment instruments. So the idea is that we, just as, for example, PSD2 framework, we develop in this regulatory framework, as well as API standards, so that consumer can tell his or her financial institution to share particular data, providing consent in a digital forms through biometric identification, so that third-party providers can gain access and build, for example, personalized financial management apps, or credit marketplace, or other things. So, and we believe that it would help to improve, to enhance innovation in the market, because third-party providers, non-bank fintechs, telecom operators, retail operators can gain direct access to this data and build value-added services for the consumers. And it would help to further increase this embedded finance development in Kazakhstan. And actually, it would help also to the banks themselves, because it would help to increase and improve interaction between them, so that they can create high value-added services as well.
Mm-hmm. And if you needed to summarize this part, what would you say are Kazakhstan main opportunities from the fintech perspective compared to other places? Like, what are its main strengths and opportunities in general?
Sure. So we position Kazakhstan as a good place where you can test your fintech hypothesis for a very cheap price. Why? Because we have a pretty mature market in terms of customer perception. So we have a number of strong players among banks and non-bank fintechs who already provide a very high world-level fintech services for them within super apps, or in distinct services. So consumers are ready to consume good fintech innovation, but in terms of labor cost, in terms of regulation, I think it is quite easy for any fintech startup to come here, test their hypothesis, and then easily scale up to the global. That's that's how we structure our innovation support strategy. We also have international recognized financial center called AIFC, Astana International Financial Center, where we have English legislation, English law. It's separate court, separate regulation. So I think overall, for any fintech startup, it's worth to consider to come to Kazakhstan, test their hypothesis, and scale up globally.
Mm-hmm. And well, as you know, I've been working in China for a while, Hong Kong, etc. And I wanted to ask you, like, we all know that Kazakhstan is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Do you think that Kazakhstan fintech scene can or will benefit in any way from that, or do you think it will not affect much the fintech scene?
Well, at the moment, I don't see some direct effect, but obviously indirect effects will be huge. So first off, we have to take into consideration that we live in the era, in a sense, of deglobalization, where regional cooperation probably will mean much more as it means now. And so the financial infrastructure, especially digital financial infrastructure, also would reflect that. And I believe that probably BRI or BRICS or such initiatives will be these points of new regional collaboration for which we would all together, central banks of the region, will build this new financial infrastructure to serve the needs for trade or other services within that collaboration. And in that sense, I believe BRI can be helpful and can propose new challenges to be solved with these conceptually new approaches to build digital financial infrastructure. And for example, digital yuan, CBDC, and CBDCs of other participants of BRI initiative can be built together to support cross-border trade within BRI initiative or other cross-border financial intermediation, probably.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just touched on a very interesting point, I think, about CBDCs, no, that idea of cross-border payments, and especially when it comes to digital yuan. I'm writing a paper right now on that area, on how digital yuan could be used for cross-border payments, not just in the Belt and Road Initiative countries, but also in RCEP countries, etc. No? So I guess we'll need time to see to what extent that happens, but I think this is a very interesting point to touch. And this brings me back to the next part of my questions for you, which is CBDCs, Central Bank Digital Currencies, because I know that both your central bank and yourself have been like very active in this area. So I wanted to start maybe from the very beginning. And I mean, of course, all my listeners know that this is an area that I very much like. You know, I've been teaching courses about CBDCs and giving lots of seminars. So from the very beginning, without like moving yet to Kazakhstan, what advantages would you say that central bank digital currencies can or will offer in the future?
Yeah, sure. So first off, it seems that decline of cash on the long trend is inevitable. So it is critical to keep direct access from citizens and companies and firms to central bank money. And so obviously CBDC would serve this very important economic function. And also as a concept, CBDC can provide additional but very critical feature to the money itself. So at the moment we have like three core functions of any money: means of payment, store of value, and medium of exchange, right? And but I believe that programmability itself can be a distinct feature of money, not just supporting use of that three core economic feature, but also programmability itself. Because the economy itself is also changing and transitioning. We all know what is happening with all that metaverse stuff, development of token economy, and I believe for any central bank money in the future, it will be critical to have this programmability option to natively integrate to new economic reality. That the core mission of CBDC, in my opinion. But in terms of simple value proposition for today's challenges, it also beneficial, mainly I believe because of two potential features. First is offline capacity that would help to bolster financial inclusion and help consumers to get access to cashless payments without internet or in unstable internet connection. Second is programmability again. Programmability can be used in a wide variety of business cases, starting from government scenarios when you want to provide helicopter money or increase transparency in procurement services, or somehow other use programmability. And third, but it's also critical, I believe that CBDC as a concept can increase actually privacy of cashless transactions because of potential usage of new approaches and technologies such as zero knowledge proof or other things. But other than that, I think a combination of this feature together with baseline requirements to any other payment system in different combinations can serve different public policy goals depending on the jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned three very interesting ideas, no? Financial inclusion, programmability, and privacy. And I think maybe we're not going to be able to like dig deep on all of them, but I wanted to ask you a bit more about some of them. Like first of all, financial inclusion, for example. How do you think CBDCs can help any country promote financial inclusion more efficiently?
Yeah, of course, it would depend on specific challenges for jurisdiction. For example, I can talk with some example to Kazakhstan. So first off, obviously, if you can build offline CBDC that can be provided for wide amount of people, that would help to increase access and resiliency of cashless infrastructure itself, and obviously would lead to higher access to financial inclusion. Second is probably, again, programmability option itself can increase financial inclusion because essentially you can gain more data from financial transaction, meaning that financial institutions and credit agencies can get more data about transactional behavior, which would subsequently increase their opportunity to provide credit to economy. Because for now, probably lack of data sometimes also something that blocks financial institutions or credit institutions from providing this credit. A third thing, probably somewhere in the future, we might consider that access to CBDC core ledger can be provided not only for financial institutions, but also for non-conventional payment system providers, telecoms, retail providers, or other innovative companies, which means that the number of intermediaries would increase, which would subsequently lead to increased access of financial services themselves. That's if we're talking about financial. I know that there are potentially maybe many more layers, but again, it's very specific to particular jurisdiction, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And you also touched on privacy. I know that privacy is a key concern when it comes to CBDCs, I would say worldwide, but especially in Europe. I know that many citizens and institutions show their concern for that. But you mentioned that CBDCs can actually increase the privacy of certain transactions. No, so I wanted to ask you about that. How's that, and how do you think that privacy can be guaranteed in the area of CBDCs?
Right. That's I believe we already have technology on board and available that can help us to actually build a top-notch privacy for CBDC transactions. In the very beginning, it requires the right policy goals setting by central bank. For example, we believe that we should maintain cash-like privacy for certain type of wallets and certain type of transactions, so that the consumer and citizen can enjoy this cash-like privacy in everyday life, at least for a particular set of payment scenarios. That does not, however, mean that for the whole payment scenario spectrum, we should provide this cash-like privacy because we have this AML safety consideration. My belief that central bank should provide this diversified hybrid approach, and it is technologically possible. For example, in our approach, we build a platform that supports this hybrid wallet management model with opportunity to actually program transaction visibility, so that for particular set of transactions, nobody actually can see the metadata of that transaction. So it is essentially a cash-like privacy, and it is supported by zero knowledge proof and other cryptographic approaches. But another layer of anonymity is identity anonymity. So should we provide KYC for everyone who want to gain access to CBDC? For example, if we're talking about non-residents or something like that. We're also exploring this opportunity, but I believe that from technological standpoint, it is completely possible to build architecture that serves the needs, of every stakeholder and keep this privacy for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. I see. So I guess the summary would be that the right technology exists. The right technology is there. No, it's just about using it to ensure privacy. But the technology doesn't need to be invented; it's already there.
Absolutely. So it is important. I think it is important to find a balance, right? And balance between this visibility in terms of AML and safety and consumer rights. And I believe the right combination of technology and regulation can totally or solve this problem.
Mm-hmm. And now moving to CBDCs, specifically in Kazakhstan. I know that you led a preliminary study on CBDC considerations for the National Bank of Kazakhstan, and you are leading as well, if I'm not mistaken, the research of a retail CBDC in your country. You co-authored a public consultation report, a white paper, etc., and many more documents. So what's the current status of Kazakhstan CBDC?
Right. So last May, we initiated our journey towards CBDC in Kazakhstan. As you already mentioned, last year was a sort of preliminary research within which we conducted preliminary overview of financial stability risks and overall economic impact, as well as developed a high-level design of Digital Tenge, which is a retail CBDC for Kazakhstan. But also what is important, we build this proof of concept prototype to test technological viability conceptually of proposed frameworks and design considerations that we had in our minds. And we proved that it is totally technologically possible. So this year we are aimed to make a final decision, actually, whether to issue or not issue CBDC, or probably on that. And in order to make that decision, we developed a decision-making framework that we published on July 1st this year. These frameworks take into consideration many criteria, but overall the logic is quite simple. So first off, we're starting with specific policy goals for Kazakhstan, and we propose a design of CBDC that can solve these specific goals in Kazakhstan. After that, we test this design from many different perspectives, from technological perspective, from a regulatory perspective, from economic design perspective, and conduct this series of viability tests. After that, we also develop a proposed operational and regulatory model design. So altogether can help us to estimate direct costs and potential benefits from CBDC implementation. And based on that, we decompose all of that analysis on 7 criteria. And based on that criteria, we make a final decision whether to issue or not issue CBDC. We also involve independent advisory board to help us to interpret the results of our study. So by the end of this year, we would actually make a final decision whether to issue CBDC or not. And in case of yes, we would propose a roadmap how that such implementation might look like. As a part of research, we would conduct an actual pilot. Minimum viable product platform will be developed by October this year, meaning that this platform would actually simulate a production grade platform. So we already onboarded a number of real financial institutions, and around 1,000, consumers will get direct access to CBDC platform. And we would conduct a streamlined test from CBDC issuance to CBDC circulation to other processes related to CBDC to actually imitate how CBDC might work in Kazakhstan, and then take that into consideration when making the right decision. But we also do is economic modeling. So we developed and proposed 2 dynamic stochastic equilibrium, general equilibrium model to simulate how introduction of CBDC can impact macroeconomic indicators, how it can impact financial stability. We specifically focus on potential liquidity run risks from commercial bank deposits. And results of that study would also be taken into consideration. Mm-hmm. That's long story short.
Yes, I was actually going to ask you now about financial stability and monetary policy. For example, with a CBDC, how do you make sure that there is no bank run Because when we're talking about physical bank branches, that's much easier, no? But with CBDCs, how can you program that CBDC to make sure that this won't happen? Like, I mean, either in Kazakhstan or anywhere, no? I mean, that's like a global question.
Yeah, so it should be a set of regulatory and design decisions. So from regulatory decision, you obviously can limit a number of amount of CBDC that can be stored at the moment for the particular consumer or firm. That can be different limits, etc., etc. You also probably want to limit a fast conversion to CBDC during the crisis, so that you won't deteriorate the financial system during the time of shocks. But in terms of design, it is very important to design CBDC in a such manner so that it would become more means of payment rather than store of value. So there are a number of approaches to reach that. For example, in Kazakhstan, we consider only non-interest bearing CBDC, so that consumer so it makes much more sense to economic agent to store their money in deposit, which provides some interest. We also consider some other options. We would present them specifically, but overall, I think it is also important to communicate and build the entire ecosystem around CBDC in a manner that again it would become more means of payment rather than store of value. That's a core function of CBDC, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And technology-wise, well, I know there's an ongoing debate on whether CBDCs should or should not use blockchain. And based on my research and what I've been talking to central bankers, well, generally, I've been told that that blockchain may probably make a better use case for wholesale CBDCs rather than retail CBDCs. But still, do you think that first of all, blockchain applying blockchain in the CBDC area makes sense? And secondly, do you think, based on the research that you've done so far, that Kazakhstan CBDC Digital Tenge will use blockchain to some extent?
Right. So again, in order to make a decision in order to make any technology decision, it is important to take into consideration public policy goals that you set up for a CBDC project, because it really depends. Well, my personal belief that it is useful to use blockchain to some extent, because CBDC might support not only increase of efficiency of existing financial services, but it also might potentially serve as a bridge to DeFi world, to token economy world, because when you consider these DVP, potential swaps, potential use of CBDC in these AMMs, or potential use of CBDC as a collateral for privately issued stable coins. So native integration between those blockchain would help a lot. And it actually can provide what we call embedded supervision approach to central banks, essentially. And but yeah, that probably mostly about wholesale business cases. But in terms of retail business cases, we also see a potential to use blockchain, mainly because it is easier to build offline capacity with tokenized approach. And secondly, it provides a wider programmability options for tokenized CBDC, in my opinion, because you can program money at the token level, not at a wallet level, which provides much more flexibility for programmability and for innovation. But again, we have to take into consideration policy goals of particular jurisdiction, because for some of them it is critical to have a high throughput and capacity, which is probably somewhat hard on blockchain-based CBDCs. But again, technology is also doesn't stand, at the moment we already see solutions, blockchain-based solutions actually, that can provide a very high throughput and very high capacity. We also have to take into consideration that blockchain by design can increase resiliency and security of payment system infrastructure. So my bet is that blockchain will be used for CBDCs, but for sure it's not critical to use CBDC in order to be called CBDC. Because in the end of the day, it's just a matter of who holds the risk for this money.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for sharing those interesting remarks about blockchain and CBDCs. And unfortunately, we are running out of time. This was pretty much the last question, so we'll need to wrap up this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to host you, Binur. It's been great to hear from you regarding well, fintech in Kazakhstan, your strategic roadmap, open banking, and especially, of course, CBDCs, given that both you and your central bank are so involved in doing research in this area to the point that you will be making a decision by the end of this year. So you are like pretty much like hands-on right now on this area, on this topic, and I see you participating in many conferences and events talking about that. So that's why it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to get to learn from you, and I'm sure that my listeners will as well learn very much from this episode.
Yeah, so let me appreciate you for inviting me to this interesting discussion. It is always great to talk with bright and smart people, and thank you for your questions. So again, I just wanted to ask everyone who listening to this podcast to get in touch with our team. We're always open to new collaboration and new discussions. We keep our open-minded approach for each project that our team is involved and leading. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and yeah, appreciate it again.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you again, Binur. And to all my listeners, thank you very much for listening to this episode. And please stay tuned for the next ones. Thank you, and see you very soon.
Thank you.